On today's podcast, we have an incredible conversation with my girl, one of my favorites, Melissa Korda. Melissa is based in Seattle, Washington. She holds a master's degree in kinesiology and spent 20 years in collegiate and professional athletics as a strength and conditioning coach and athletic trainer. From 2005 to 2021, she invested in rentals and flips before transitioning full-time into real estate as a loan officer with GoBundance lending in 2020. In 2024 alone, she funded 209 investor loans totaling $118 million. She and I are actually working on a loan right now, and she is fantastic to work with. Look her up if that's your thing. Melissa also leads She Invests Seattle, hosts financing workshops, and loves empowering others. Outside of real estate, she enjoys family, dogs, and outdoor activities. You are going to see why I love our member of GoBundance Women, Melissa Korda. Hello and welcome to the Power Up Your Life podcast, powered by GoBundance Women. I'm Mandy McAllister.
And I'm Kelly Resendez.
And today we have this woman who I cannot get enough of, member of GoBundance Women, Melissa Korda. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, how are we? Happy Monday.
Living with best life, girl. Yes. Well, I couldn't be more excited to have you here. And you have kind of lived three lives, or like many lives, in your one very short time on this planet. So tell us, let's start from the beginning. Tell us in your own words a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, so it's long, and I'm only 45, so I kind of laugh about that. But how I got here, where I'm at today, like as far as real estate, it is kind of crazy because prior to COVID, I had a completely different world. I have a master's degree in kinesiology. So I spent about 15 years working with pro sports, pro athletes. I worked in the NBA, the WNBA. I really worked hard as a woman coming up in that industry, because again, it's very male dominated. But it was a challenge. It was fun. I was, that was what I believed I was there for. So I really, really focused on my career. But I did the thing that every woman regrets, is like I gave up my family life and, 3 kids at the time. And so fast forward, COVID happened and I lose everything. So my job, I thought that I lost everything, went into spiraling depression. I lived for the Zoom and wines. Like that was my only thrill of my life was the Zoom and wine. But on one of them, a friend of mine was like, hey, stop complaining. Like you're smart, you're educated, get a job. Actually, GoBundance is hiring. I just did a flip in Texas. So I probably would have taken any job offered at that moment, like anything, dog walking, whatever. But I called Brenda, who is in GoBundance too, which is amazing. But I called her and I was just like, hey, this is where I'm at. I just need a job and I need some interaction. I need some people. Fast forward, I am still there 4 years later, and I'm now a loan officer. And I couldn't be happier. If somebody were to say, if you snap your fingers, you could go back to your old life, I wouldn't do it. I am completely where God intended me to be. I almost feel like COVID was created for me to realize what I was missing with my family and with my children and with my own life. Even though I know it wasn't for me, but I feel like that was what I needed, or I would never have changed my trajectory.
Well, it's all about the meaning that you give things, right? Like the hard stuff. If you give it a meaning that is meaningful in a direction that's great, like you did, you go further faster, And
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that could have similar feelings about COVID having been this silver lining. Having, been an athlete also, and you spent your entire dang life as an athlete and then working with athletes. And that is an identity. That is who you are, to have the idea that, ooh, I need to do something different to live a life to get to be with my kids. There had to have been a little bit of fear, in that shift of your identity. Walk me through kind of your internal conversations and how you talked yourself out of that so that you could live this greater version of your life.
Yeah. So I'm very transparent, so I'll just be super real. There was a moment that I was relying way too much on alcohol to get through what I was dealing with. So I had to first remove that from my life, just so I could think clearly and make sure that like I was focusing on just what I needed, because my response to what I needed was like, I'm gonna have a drink. Just So I had to like have some coming to Jesus with that. I definitely enjoy cocktails. I definitely am back. We're at a very positive, healthy place. But I did clear my head, and I really had to find out like I need to hear the right thing. But it was very scary because I was 40 and everything I had known was my athletic status and then my status with athletics and then my plan. And if I failed for 1 second, I failed all of women in the world because I was one of very few women in my industry. So I had this really, I it put it on me. It wasn't anyone put it on me. I put it on me that I had to succeed because I didn't want to fail. And on the top of that, I'm also a Mexican. My parents are Mexican. My mom is, and my grandparents are. They came over illegally. They died legal, but they came over illegally. So there was a lot of pressure in that realm too to succeed as a woman because most of our expectations was to be the best mom or the best breeder, the best cook. It wasn't really, when my parents said I heard I was going to college, they were like, "How you need to get married and have children?" And I was like, "So that's not going to be me." So there was a lot of pressure. But when COVID happened and my world was just stripped from me, I really broke down and had to like basically have to say, Melissa, just live this path now. And every day it was a constant, like, you failed. Like, this is not who you were supposed to be. Like, I'm on a Wheaties box, ladies. It's old, it's dusty, but like, that's where I was. I was on ESPN at games. I traveled with teams. And now my thrill is like my kids' basketball tournament in another state. I'm like, yes, like
Mm,
this so it is a constant reminder of God's plan for me also. So
mm,
I had to like hear him instead of hearing myself so loudly. And when I did that, I finally was like, you know what? I'm going to be the best assistant I could possibly be. And I think Brenda will tell you I was the best. And then I'm going to be the best LO and I'm going to be the best at this. And now I found myself in a situation where I am living my most competitive life, but as the best listener that I can be and the best partner that I can be, the best mentor to my assistants that work under me now, and also the best learner. I've actually challenged myself with
mm,
I know nothing really. Like I need to stop being the one that teaches everyone and actually is
mm.
learning from other people too. So, but it's constant. I constantly have to say, Melissa, stop thinking that way. Like you know where you're going. Like reset. So I constantly have to reset myself.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Uh, I like have the chills. There was so much to unpack in that one answer. I started off as a loan officer assistant as well early on in my career and super grateful for that journey. There's so much. It sounds like you have a strategy to overcome the initial thoughts that might come up that I need to be perfect. But the more
hmm
important topic that I believe that we can dig into right now is this identity like release. So
Yeah.
my mom was an immigrant as well from Mexico.
Oh,
They came here legally because my grandma married somebody that she'd never met before. So apparently that made it legal. However, the pressure that's put on this generation that comes here for,
yeah.
the American dream, the whatnot, I think what ends up happening is we do embody an identity that's not who we are. And so
Mhm.
for the people listening, there are probably a lot of people listening that are like, I'm really good at this, or I'm really successful at that. Now, God gave you the shove off the cliff to make you do it, but not everybody has to wait for the shove off the cliff, right?
True.
So
Yeah.
we can be in a place where like, I know I'm meant for more. I know this is not who I am, whether it's mom, CEO, worker, whatever it might be, but I need to really evolve to this next place. What are some of the things that you do, like on a daily basis, whether it's recipes or rituals, to feel more powerful yourself so that you can, stay in this identity shift that you've gone through?
Yeah. So prior to COVID, I didn't invest any time in me, like who I was. I invested in who I needed to take care of and what I needed to stay relevant in my industry. So the complete shift I've done is really focusing on me and how one, I can identify things that I can work on, and two, identify circles that I want to be in. And I'll be so honest about when I got into this industry, I had no idea how many incredible women's groups there were and women's pocket of people that were very similar and had different lives and then came here and found the freedoms. And then they found
Mm,
people that they would support and love. And coming from an industry that was very male dominated and women were very competitive because there was a few of us, I didn't know that love, right?
mm,
So I was kind of like, you guys are being nice to me. You know, I'm like, really? So it was I had to like kind of be vulnerable and just really say like I can meet new women and I can listen and hear. And so that is one thing that I just texted a friend I need a new book. So I'm really working on always, getting putting into myself good readings, like good things in my head, like really having that revolve around me, but also like just being with GoBundance. That was somebody asked me once why I joined GoBundance, and I said because it's the one thing I do for me. I'm in a lot of
Mhm.
groups. I mentor a lot. I help a lot. But it's
mhm,
like the one thing that if I found GoBundance when I was in my 20s, 25, I probably wouldn't be on the path that I was on because I had no one feeding into me saying like, you're great at that, but like imagine if you applied that to this. Like no one was ever looking at me saying you should challenge yourself or this isn't where God intended you. Where I feel like in Go Abundance in just a short time, so many people have been like, stop, you do different. And I'm like, okay. And they're right. That's the thing is they're right. So I've definitely circled myself around people that I will listen to. And I've also made myself listen. So instead of being like, that's an excuse, like I've actually been like, okay, I hear you. I need to process that and figure out like how I can unpack it. And then just spend time for myself. Like that is another thing is I truly didn't realize what I needed as a woman and as a person. And so I've really worked on that too.
I think that's so key. This idea of, oh wait, I get to figure out what I need. We've talked about this before. I spent so many years of my life not realizing that I got to figure out what I needed. And then it
Yeah.
felt like this huge responsibility when I figured it out. But I couldn't be more grateful that, to be part of the story of where you're going. And I also think it's such a common refrain for women working in male dominated industries that you feel crazy because you feel alone. And
Yes.
you're not crazy, you're just the first one doing it. And as soon as you get around other people performing at high levels, doing big things, you feel normal and you feel like you can go further faster because you have those voices.
Oh, for
So
sure.
we as entrepreneurs, we tend to be super unconventional in a lot of things that we're doing. Pretty unconventional for the Mexican descent lady to dive into her career, right? So I'm curious now in your life, what is an unconventional strategy that most people would be like, oh, no way, but to be true?
So I think it's important that we step outside of our comfort zone, and that's really hard. And most people are like, you're so extroverted, and like that's easy for you. I saw you on stage, and I'm like, yes, but you didn't see me almost barfing in the bathroom prior to, or you don't know the 30-minute conversation I have before an event or Zoom that I have to be like, you're fine, it's okay, 20 deep breaths, and then I'm like, hey, I think like we put on a really good front because that's just what we got to do. But the journey to get there is not always easy. I think we look at other people and say like, "Oh, it's so easy for you." It's not. But what I have done is I've challenged myself to put myself into uncomfortable situations and learn to get better there because what I've told my children is you learn a lot about what you tell your adult children because if you don't actually live that path, you're like, well, I should do that too, even though that's great advice. I need to be that person, right? Because they will call you on it. Your 6-year-old and 8-year-old won't call you on it, but they will get to a point where they're like, but mom, you don't. So I've always told my kids that, like, you don't know what you need in your life till you meet that person, till you walk through that door. And then right there, that moment, God just said, like, finally you listened, and here you go, enlightenment. So if we just stay comfortable or we stay in that place where we feel complacent, we may not find the next path. We may not find what we're really looking for. So the challenge for me is to find a new situation to delve into, find something that I'm not so comfortable with, or it's completely foreign, and be okay with them going like, no, thank you, not interested. And just like, okay, let me know when you are interested. And then follow up with the like great to see you're doing well, and be okay with that. Or you open a door that is just like, we've been looking for someone like you. Like, this is exactly like, thank you for calling, because you don't know what you run into, but it's really, really hard. I think that is not something we're told as women to go adventure for a new adventure. I think that's like a very male thing. It's like, where is your next adventure? And women are like, I feel like women have always been said, like, where's your next stability? And I think like
Mm.
we have to find our women have to go for the adventure, but we always need to create the stability when we're in there. So that's kind of, that's what I feel like has been my struggle, but also my biggest reward. Like the biggest mind shift for me is to search for the next unknown and be able to deal with that or thrive off of that.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. And it's so powerful. I mean, we all hear it, right? Like life happens outside of your comfort zone, but
Hmm.
how many of us are intentional about it? And I definitely am a recovering perfectionist who had to actually put down fun and adventure on my goals. Most people needed to put the disciplines and the things to build their business on their goals, and I was the opposite. I was like, I need to go to a new place every once in a while. You talked a little bit today about just, this prioritization of family and how you
Hmm.
made that shift. One of the things I've noticed is that success in business is so tangible, where
Hmm.
success in our family and our relationships is like, I don't know if I was a good parent till they're like 25, right? So you don't get that. How have
Yeah.
you really been able to now make this life shift for yourself where you're prioritizing your relationship with your husband and with the kids?
Yeah. So, man, you talk about mom guilt. It is so real, and it's unfortunate because I think it's only been created by us moms.
Yeah.
Um, my kids will tell you I was the worst and I did this and like they always not I wasn't the worst. I was the best mom ever, but your kids are so unfair at times, right? My 21-year-old now is like, you did so much for me, mom. Like I'm like, yes, I made it with that one. Um, but I think the thing is I had to really let it go and just be I reflected back. This is a sad note and it kind of brings me to tears. I was with the Seattle Storm, it's our WNBA team, and we had just won the 2010 championship. And my kids were there and they were like 5 and 7, maybe 6 and 4. My mom was there with our help because my kids were wild. And so they all came down to the locker room and they had these little signs, they're at a game. And the sign was all decked out with storm stuff and colors, and it said, "Go Mom." It wasn't a player, it wasn't a nothing, it was me. And I just looked at it and I remember they were in the training room and it was after the game and I was like, "Thank you guys." And I kissed them and I just was like, I just regarded it. And I just I later realized they never cared about what I did. They cared about me. Like they were just
Yeah.
so, like it was crushing. And like that was one of the reasons why I resigned. I could have stayed. I think I could have stayed and really like worked on that, but I just needed a change. Like that was my kids didn't they needed me. So, okay, I'm
Yeah.
over like they're 21 and 19 now and my little one's 13, but it was really hard because you don't realize how much you think you're doing this for your family and they could care less, right?
Right.
Mm.
It's a
So
significance thing.
yeah, super, and it hurt, and it still hurts. But I think once I let go of the mom guilt and realized that I can have a career without putting them aside, but I also had to communicate with them. We had to be real about like, okay, mom, when she's in the office, I'm 100% in the office. Don't stand outside my door and wave like I'm busy. But when
Mm.
I'm outside of the office, they'll put their hand over my phone. They would when they're little, and they'll push it down and they're like, "Mom, we're watching a movie." I'm like, "Okay." So I had to be intentional. Like if I wanted the leave me alone, I'm working, I had to do the leave me alone, I'm parenting. And then over time, I really enjoyed it. So I think like that's the hardest thing is stepping away from the desk because I'm very competitive. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
could do this
Yeah.
deal on the side and still watch this movie. But they needed to see that. And then over time, they really, they respected that. They're like, mom's working, let's not bug her. And then
Right.
mom's parenting, I get 100% of her. Is it perfect? No, but that was the goal. And I got rid of the guilt that way.
But
Mm.
the memories are made in the all in.
Yes.
And I have a reframe there too, or something that I continually coach myself on is, I am showing my 3 kids that mom is worth chasing her dreams. Because just like you
Yeah,
said, they're not going to do what I tell them to do. They're going to do what I show them to do.
totally.
So if I'm all in that and we're making memories, then that's what matters to them. And then when I'm all out, I'm all in on business. So you're doing it, girl. I could not be more proud. I
Definitely
think
tried.
you've talked a lot about, God gave you these messages and you're a woman of faith. And, for anybody listening who, universe, God, whatever the thing is that you're looking to help you find an answer, you don't maybe, but God's not giving me an answer, but the universe isn't giving me an answer. How do you tune in? What is something that you do to actionably put yourself in a place that you can be in receipt of that answer?
So, b- and I'll speak biblically because that's where I come from, but I do agree anything spiritually. Like I think, and it's maybe even not spiritually, but just one with yourself, if that's where you're at. But just finding time to the noise to go away and be alone in yourself, like that is important. We as women multitask too much. Like I go for a walk, I want to put in a podcast. I go for a drive, I'm going to do 4 calls in the car. Like we do that because we're efficient that way. But there's the value in going for a walk with nothing in and just your thoughts and just you and yourself, like really thinking like that's where you have those aha moments. So I sit in prayer, and in my prayers or my reading, there are things that come to me that there's those burning moments of like, this isn't working. And then I have to say, what did I try? What have I tried? What didn't I try? And then sometimes I'm like, man, it's been there the whole time. I just haven't listened. I wouldn't see it, or I was so focused on this that I couldn't see that. So the way that when I'm struggling and when life gets low, like especially like I'm sure you saw my post about my dad, like life has been really low and I've held that in. I haven't shared, like I finally posted about it and I never do that, but like something was just eating at me. So I posted, and because of that, I had many people like reach out to me, like prayer warriors, like a lot of people. And I think like I really needed, instead of wallowing, because I was really wallowing, like this is just crap, like just spiraling down. And I had so many people uplift me and send me some messages I needed to hear, some prayers I needed to pray, some just encouragement of stories they've gone through. And that was what I needed. And I kind of, if I never reached out or never posted, I would never have gotten what I needed. And the next day I felt very like, one, I wished I didn't do it because I got a million messages, but like at the same time, I was low and God moved me to say, make a
Yeah.
post, put it out there, and he gave me what I needed. So if we don't hear, it's just I feel like you need a quiet place. And one of the things our group, my GoBundance pod actually was focusing on time, doing our one-on-one time with ourselves, like putting time aside for ourselves, and how hard it was just to get 15 minutes a day to do that. And it's very powerful. So I would say like that's the one thing, is tune out all the noise so you can hear what you're being moved to do, what you're missing, and whether it's God, whether it's
Beautiful.
the spirituality or just yourself clarifying things. We need that quiet time.
I love that, Melissa. Well, you have shared so much wisdom, and I know that our listeners are probably just excited to, hear more from you in the future. But for me, some of the greatest things are just that reminder that some of the worst things that feel like they're happening can be the best things that are happening. Your vulnerability to share that grief. I think, I've always said the devil's in a beach chair drinking a tequila, watching us just, throw ourselves down by not asking for help and
Yeah.
not allowing that support in. I know the power of prayer, and I know just the power that when we have community around us, that we can experience grief and joy simultaneously. But we have to know that the only way through that is through connection. So just grateful for
Absolutely.
everything that you've
Oh,
shared today, Mandy.
that was one that I wrote down too, the asking for help and getting to a quiet place to figure out what you need. And I love that your success has come from this kind of athletic commitment to I'm gonna be the best. no matter what the thing is. Like it's just this decision that you've made that you're going to do the steps that it takes to be at the top of the line. And, I also wrote down, where is your next adventure versus where is your next stability? So in my
Yeah.
thinking, feeling, clarity time next, I'm going to actually noodle on that. So thank you for the prompt. One thing that we talk a lot about at GoBundance Women is we need to have our ask ready. That we are
Mm-hmm.
all about sharing of connection, sharing of resources to go further, faster together. Let our listeners know, Kelly and me and our listeners know what is as a connection or a resource that's going to help you go to your next level.
Yeah. So as far as like business wise, I'm a loan officer, right? So I'm always looking for a new borrower to work with and help. But what I love and where I find most um, reward is finding a new group that needs education on financing and how to scale. And like, I'm not a salesperson. I only got into this 4 years ago. So I love educating because it leads to sales, but it also clears up a lot of like women's issues on understanding. Like, I don't know where to start. I don't know. There's so many things out there. There's so much fraud. So I'd like to connect with more groups. And I definitely work with women's groups more because I just feel like I speak their language and we accomplish more stuff. But yeah, like that would be, I'm always looking for more groups that want to learn and grow. I definitely have a great product to sell, but like my more intention is I come from a service minded, love
Yeah,
language.
you
So
sure
like
do.
that's kind of where, I enjoy my job and it makes it enjoyable for my life.
That's
So
beautiful.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Melissa, for joining us today.
Oh,
Anybody needs to know about, putting your family first, identity shifts, how to get a great loan product from Melissa Korda, make sure you're sharing this episode with them. Like and subscribe, and make sure you're checking out Power Up Your Life Now, where Kelly and I will help you figure out things to bring your influence and grow your business. So we can't wait to see you on the next episode of Power Up Your Life, powered by GoBundance Women.
Bye
thank you,
bye.
ladies. Love seeing you guys. Bye.
Bye bye.